Colorado Senator, presidential candidate, Senator Michael Bennet. Good
Thanks,
to see you,
Chris.
Senator.
Good to see you,
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing out there?
Well, I'm not competing in Iowa, really.
Because?
I ran out of money. So I'm in New Hampshire, and I've spent more time in New Hampshire than any other candidate. I'm in the middle, actually at the end of a round of 50 town halls that I've been doing up there, and we'll see what happens next Tuesday.
Now, we're watching together, obviously, the proceeding that you'll be part of today. Here's the Chief Justice, Senator John, coming in now, and he will obviously preside. There was always this little question, will he get involved? It seems like no at this point. And you were saying this has become tough for you to observe around you.
I just think it's pitiful what's happened here. You now have more than half of the Senate saying what Donald Trump did was wrong. When you add up the Republicans that said what he did was wrong to the Democrats that said what he did was wrong, and yet we didn't have the decency to have documents and witnesses in this trial for the American people, not for the senator's convenience, but for the American people to be able to know what actually happened here. And the truth's going to have to come out one way or another. It just seems ridiculous for it to come out after we're making the decision rather than before.
How do you feel about the Republican pushback of, should have done it in the House?
I think the president stonewalled the House of Representatives in a way that was completely unprecedented. Richard Nixon didn't do what Donald Trump did. Trump didn't allow them to have a single witness, didn't allow them to have a single document, and it was up to the Senate to say, we're going to do better than that. You know, these people now that are saying, oh, you know, it was a partisan impeachment in the House. It was partisan because they couldn't get any cooperation from the White House. And the Senate had the opportunity to do something nonpartisan or bipartisan, and we refused to do it.
They keep quoting the Federalist Paper 65, Alexander Hamilton, and saying, see, this is what he was worried about, partisan numbers game where that creates the outcome. They're right, but they're misapplying it. What they did in the Senate, by the way, because that's what Hamilton was talking about. He wasn't talking about the House. He was talking about the Senate. You can't say that you think he did something wrong and say, but I'm not going to give anybody access to the proof of the same.
You also can't say it's too partisan and then just make it more partisan.
That's right.
I mean, it's an irrational point of view. And unfortunately, Mitch McConnell made a decision that we knew he had made at the outset, which was, I'm going to help cover up what the president did. And I don't think in the end that will be successful. I think by the time we're voting, the American people are going to know what Donald Trump did. But that doesn't solve the problem of our checks and balances and the responsibility that the Congress has to stand up to a tyrant or a president that's acting in a tyrannical way. That is what the founders were worried about. And, you know, there's a lot of talk about King George and all this stuff. The people the founders were looking over their shoulder at were the Roman emperors that destroyed the Roman, marched on Rome, turned their armies on Rome, and those characters were just like Donald Trump. You know, he'll probably take that as a compliment, but that's who the founders were worried about, and we failed in our moment to live up to their aspirations.
And they trusted the founders that people in your position would do it in a better way than England did at the time, which was chopping the guy's head off. All right, so you're not in Iowa, you're in New Hampshire. I wanted people to understand why. The idea of you guys figuring out the best person to beat Trump, do you really believe that's what your primary has been about so far?
I believe that is the #1 concern of people, and that's why the race is so unresolved at this moment, because nobody knows. They can't figure it out. You know, the people that are the leading candidates, people are having second thoughts about. The people that are, you know, people like me, they haven't had first thoughts about. And so they're trying to figure it out. And in New Hampshire, I would say people are less decided today than they were 6 weeks ago. And I think they're asking the right question, which is, who can beat Donald Trump? I happen to believe, coming from Colorado, a swing state in the middle of the country with an agenda that can unify people, I'm the right person to beat Donald Trump. Other people may have different points of view. I think people in Iowa and New Hampshire should vote for who they think can beat Trump, because this guy cannot be it. We cannot reelect him.
Well, it'll be interesting, because if your party doesn't figure out how to do exactly that, instead of having, which you rightly called out during one of the early debates about this granular discussion about health care, when the guy you're running against isn't even going to talk about his plan, you got to figure that out. Otherwise, your party may not wind up in a position to battle who they're going against. Senator,
thanks for having me.
Senator Bennet from Colorado, I wish you good luck.
Thank you, Chris.
Going forward in New Hampshire, and I'll be talking to you again.
Thanks.
All right? All right, let's get back.